Yo, YouTube, rcktman checking in with another video for you. In this video, if you couldn't tell from the title, I'm going to be going through giving you my official 2023-2024 Stanley Cup playoff predictions. I'm doing it a little bit differently this year from years past. I'm actually doing two brackets this year instead of just one. The first bracket, of course, is going to be the one where I tell you who I believe is going to win each series and why. But the second bracket I did is actually the one based on who I'm rooting for in each series and some reasons for why I'm rooting for certain teams there. So definitely be sure to stay to the end and check out both of those brackets. Let me know what you think of both. I'm definitely curious to look at the end of the playoffs and compare both brackets, see which one did better. But the other thing that I did differently this year that I haven't done before is I actually went through and did this live on Twitch. So I had my Twitch chat reacting to my predictions, giving their thoughts, and I had an absolute blast doing that. So if that's something you'd be interested in being a part of in the future, or if you just want to see me be terrible at video games in real time, go follow me over on Twitch. It's twitch.tv/rcktman0127. It's spelled the same as my YouTube channel username, so if you have any questions about how to spell it, just use my YouTube channel. But with that being said, appreciate you guys pulling up the video. Let's jump into it. All right, so we're on bracketchallenge.nhl.com. This is the official NHL website's bracket challenge hub, I guess you could call it. So I'm going to be doing two brackets. My first bracket that I do is going to be the one where I actually pick who I think is going to win each series, and then my second bracket's going to be who I want to win. Spoiler alert, if you already know who I root for, you know who I'm going to have winning the Stanley Cup. But either way, just stick around and check it out. It'll be fun. All right. So let's start here. Select which team you think will win round one, obviously. Oh, okay. So it's not going to let you pick the order. It's just going to make you do Dallas and Vegas first. Okay. Dallas and Vegas, this is a tough one. Vegas, of course, is the defending Stanley Cup champions. They come in as the second wild card. They had a chance last night to take the third spot in the Pacific, but they lost at home to Anaheim, and then LA came back and tied Chicago with like a minute left and on the power play to get that extra point that they needed to take the third spot in the division. Dallas obviously is the number one seed in the West. They've been phenomenal all year. Wyatt Johnston has had an absolute breakout season. He's phenomenal. They still have guys like Miro Heiskanen on defense. Rope Hintz and Jason Robertson are still playing lights out on offense. They still have Joe Pavelski, who this might be his last real shot at getting a cup before he retires, because who knows how much he has left in the gas tank. That's what I should say. And then in net, obviously, they still have Ottinger, who's played. He's had a little bit of issues this year. He's stumbled a little bit, but overall, he's still had a really good year. And over on Vegas' side, they went all in at the trade deadline. They got guys like Noah Hannafin, Tomas Hertl. Obviously, that trade is still crazy. I can't believe San Jose actually traded away Hertl and gave up assets to get rid of him. That's still nuts to me. Obviously, Mark Stone is apparently coming back, and I would have to imagine a historically quick recovery from a lacerated spleen. I mean, that's like a 2-month injury, or it's like a 6 months injury, and he's only been out for a couple weeks, and he's already practicing, and he's about to come back. So they're about to get Mark Stone back. They still have Jack Eichel, obviously. Is a lot of the core pieces from last year's Cup winning team are still there. Guys like Alec Martinez, Pietrangelo still there as well, and their depth guys are still there. So Vegas is not going to be an easy out. My question with Vegas is who's going to be in net. I would imagine Logan Thompson gets a start, but Aiden Hill was the one that took them on the run to the Cup last year. So that's going to be a tough one to pick. I do think that Vegas is primed to repeat as champion, but they get a really tough matchup here in the first round with Dallas. I've been going back and forth on this one, as I have with most of the series. Just thinking about it since the series were finalized last night, I've been thinking a lot about who I think is going to win. I will say Dallas will win barely, but I do think that Dallas holds on for the win. I think Vegas bows out in the first round, and we will have a new champion this year. Sure, you make all your selections. Okay, so it is weird that okay, now it does let you open it up. It's just really strange that they made you pick Dallas and Vegas first, but I guess we'll just go ahead and we'll just go down the list with the Western Conference first. Winnipeg and Colorado. So Colorado, obviously, they don't have Landeskog. He's been out all year, but Nathan McKinnon has been a man possessed. He's scored a point at nearly every home game this entire year. Obviously, they still have Cale Makar, who's been Norris Trophy worthy. Him or probably Quinn Hughes, I would imagine, are going to be the two finalists for the Norris this year. But Colorado's been humming along. They're going into the playoffs a little bit cold. I will not lie. They've been kind of stumbling here at the end. I believe they were in the lead in the Central Division for a long while until Dallas caught them, and then Winnipeg was behind them by a decent gap, and Winnipeg completely closed that gap and actually ended up like 4 or 5 points ahead of Colorado. That was a little surprising, but Colorado's still they're Colorado. They're 2 years removed from winning the cup. And they still have a whole bunch of pieces from that cup winning team. Like I said, Nathan McKinnon has been phenomenal. Mikko Rantanen also deserves mention. He's just an elite player, so we really can't be surprised that he's had another phenomenal season. As far as Winnipeg goes, I don't think anyone expected Winnipeg to be this good this year. It was kind of a shock that Hellebuck didn't even end up leaving over the past offseason. I think everyone expected Hellebuck to be gone, and that this year would be the start of Winnipeg kind of tearing down their old core and starting to rebuild for another wave of youth and stuff. But hey, credit to them. They've defied all expectations this year. Hellebuck, again, Vezina caliber goaltender this year. He's been really just playing lights out all year. Him and I think Brossoit is their backup goalie. They just won the Jennings Trophy for the least amount of goals allowed by any team during the regular season. So congrats to them. Obviously, they lost Blake Wheeler, or was it Scheifele? No, they lost Scheifele. Sorry, I don't pay attention to the Western Conference nearly as much, so I apologize. But they still have guys like Blake Wheeler. They still have Nikolai Ehlers, he's played phenomenal this year, and yeah. So this series is going to be tough to pick. I will say that Colorado, their main concern for me is goaltending. It's kind of like with Vegas. Well, similar but different to Vegas. With Colorado, you know who your number one is in Georgiev, but Georgiev has kind of not played that great, especially recently. He's had his issues throughout the year, and he's going into the playoffs kind of shaky. I'm not sure how short his leash is going to be for, if he comes out game 1, game 2, and he allows 3 or 4 goals. I don't know how long he's going to remain the starter, so that concerns me with Colorado. I definitely think Winnipeg is far and away the favorite when it comes to goaltending in the series. Colorado has the offensive firepower. Hellebuck is going to do his best to try to keep them off the board. I'm hesitant to pick Colorado here because, again, with the goaltending situation, I'm a little concerned with Georgiev if he can pull himself together. I do think he will, but it's going to be probably an ugly series, so I will take Colorado. Moving on to Vancouver versus Nashville. This might be my upset of the first round. I think I'm going to take Nashville here. Nashville has played, they had the 18 game point streak. They have been on fire. They've cooled off a little bit since that point streak ended, but the last month or two of the season, they've been one of the hottest teams in the entire league. They still have guys like Roman Josi, who probably won't win the Norris this year, but he's still played phenomenal. He's had a phenomenal regular season. They have just an abundance of youth, and obviously they still have UC Saros, who has had a little bit of a down year, but he's still played really well, still been a top 10 goaltender in the league this year. And then going over to Vancouver, I don't have anything against Vancouver. I think they're a really solid team. I just think that they have not had anywhere near enough experience yet, whereas Nashville, despite their youth, I think they have some guys that have been around for a little bit longer who have been part of some of Nashville's playoff appearances. So John says yes, hashtag Preds, hashtag UC. So yeah, as far as Vancouver goes, I think that they're a really solid team. I don't think that this regular season, them being in the President's Trophy race for the first half of the season, I don't think that was a fluke. I think they're a really well-built team. They have guys like Elias Pettersson, who is going to be there for the long term, which is really good for them. I'm happy for Canucks fans. They still have JT Miller, and then Thatcher Demko and net. This might be of the first round at least. The goaltending matchup might be the most fun of any matchup. You have Thatcher Demko on the one side and UC Saros on the other. Both of them arguably top 5 goalies. Yeah, that's gonna be really fun to watch and see how that plays out. Though I will say Bobrovsky and Vasilevsky might have something to say about that, about the best goaltending matchup in the first round, but we'll get to them in a minute. But yeah, overall, I just have a feeling Nashville, like I said, with their experience in that, I think that I give them the slight edge. And again, nothing against Vancouver. I think they're a really well built team, but I do think that they need probably one this year to be a learning experience for them of, playoff hockey. Hey, look, the intensity ramps up. And I don't think it's a thing that they don't know that. I just think it's a thing that their core has not experienced that. And maybe I'm counter pointing myself by saying the same thing about Nashville with their youth, but I don't know. I just have a feeling Nashville's going to pull off the upset. And then we get to Edmonton and LA. Man, I feel bad for LA. They go out in the last game of the regular season. They get the point that they need to move up into the third place in the division instead of being a wild card. And their reward is playing Edmonton for the third time in a year. Their third year in a row, I should say. LA's been hot and cold all year. They started off pretty hot. They were one of the best teams in the league. They cooled off. They've kind of gone up and down, up and down, up and down all year. You don't really know which LA team you're going to get some nights, and I think that I really hope that LA pulls through. Again, I have no reason to hate really anyone in the Western Conference because, again, it's not the conference my favorite team is in. So I don't really have any reason to hate LA. So I would like to see them have success. Unfortunately for them, Edmonton has Connor McDavid. They have Leon Draisaitl. They actually have a decent bit of depth scoring this year. I mean, Zach Hyman, who would have thought that he would have had the season that he's had? Also, guys like Warren Fogle and some other guys in the bottom 6 have played pretty well when they've been needed to. They've stepped up, and then in goal they still have Stuart Skinner, who's had an up and down year, but when he's on his game, he's pretty dang good. So I will say that Edmonton gets the win. LA, their goaltending concerns me. Cam Talbot, I think, has kind of had I think he's just had sort of an outlier year. He's played really well in the regular season. I don't think that'll carry over into the playoffs. That's kind of my main reason why, especially playing against guys like McDavid and Draisaitl. Your goaltending has to be on point. I just personally don't see Cam Talbot being able to shut down McDavid and Draisaitl enough, at least. I think that Edmonton takes that series. So going over through the first round of the Western Conference, Dallas, I'm going to give them the win in 7. I think that Vegas is really going to give them a run for their money. Like I said, Vegas, it's tough to pick against Vegas, especially with them being the Stanley Cup champs and them having, again, gone all in at the trade deadline. It's tough to pick against them. So I am going to give the win to Dallas just barely. Colorado, I think that they're going to get to Hellebuck. I think that Colorado will win in 6. I could see this series go into 7, especially, again, if Hellebuck is playing the way that he has been all year. I could see that series going to 7. I just think that Colorado will find a way to get some past Hellebuck, and I think that Georgiev will shut the gates just enough to where Colorado has the edge in the series. Nashville is going to beat Vancouver in 7. I think that that's really the only way Nashville will win the series, but again, I pick Nashville, so I think that they win the series in 7, but Vancouver gets some much-needed playoff experience, and then they come back next year, and maybe they have maybe they make a deep run next year, but I think this year will be a learning experience year for them, like I said a minute ago. And then Edmonton and LA, I think that Cam Talbot's gonna flop. I don't believe that his Lane Sanity run is going to continue in the playoffs. I think Edmonton's going to get to him relatively early on in the series, and then by that point, I think Edmonton will lock it down. I think they win the series in 5. Now, moving over to the Eastern Conference, Battle of Florida. Oh my goodness. This is the one that I've probably racked my brain more than any other series trying to think about who I think is going to win. Tampa Bay, obviously, last year they lost in the first round, historically giving, well, not historically, but infamously giving Toronto their first series win in 19 years. But they still have Kucherov, who's probably going to win the Hart Trophy. He's already won the Art Ross with 144 points, I believe it was. Broke 100 assists on the year. Just ridiculous. Just a ridiculous season from Kucherov. Obviously, still have Stamkos, still have Braden Point, who's played lights out. Their defense does concern me a little bit. Their defense is definitely weaker, especially if Sergachev is not going to be playing at the start of the series. I've heard that he's still not quite ready to go, but I could be wrong on that. Definitely let me know in comments if I'm remembering that wrong. But Sergachev not being there at the start of the series is definitely tough. I have concerns about Tampa Bay's defense. Like I said, they did get Matt Dumba, who could help, and Anthony Duclair has been one of the best pickups in the entire trade deadline. If not for Jake Gensel, Duclair probably would be the best pickup for any team in the trade deadline. But and then like I was saying a few minutes ago, they still have Vasilevsky, who has had a down year, but it's still Vasilevsky, and Vasilevsky in the playoffs is one of the scariest goaltenders you could possibly imagine having to face. So that's kind of Tampa Bay going into the series. They did get the wild card. They almost caught Toronto. It looked like they were going to there with about 2 weeks to go in the season, but they ended up not being able to close that gap. And we get the Battle of Florida again. So moving on to Florida, they're just humming along. They have struggled, but they've had a bunch of injuries over the last month or so. They've definitely gone into the playoffs stumbling a little bit, but they still have Matt Tkachuk. They still have Carter Verhaeghe, who's played really good this year. I don't even know. They made the finals last year for a reason, and they've been able to bring back most of those guys. They've brought back most of the guys that were on that team last year. They lost a couple guys like Radko Gudas on defense and stuff, but they've had some players fill in place of Gudas, and then they still have Bobrovsky playing lights out behind in net. And Battle of Florida Part 3, I believe it is. Tampa Bay's won the first two. This is going to be the rubber match pretty much. This one's tough to pick. Like I said, it is really, really difficult to go against Vasilevsky in the playoffs. I think Tampa Bay's defense is going to be the reason that they aren't able to hold on and win this series. I'm going to give the edge to Florida. Moving on to Boston and Toronto. Toronto fans are mauling right now. They are absolutely seething. The PTSD is kicking in. Toronto, shout out to Steve Dangle. I've been listening to his stuff over the past couple months and stuff. According to Steve Dangle, if his sources are correct, Toronto has not beat Boston in a playoff round since 1959. That's ridiculous. Obviously, 4-1 jokes are rampant. 2013, 2018, 2019, the back-to-back Game 7 years between the two, and Toronto's somehow losing both of those. Boston's had a really good year. Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark are probably the best 1-2 goalie tandem in the entire league. They've both been really good this year. They still have Marchand. Obviously, Pastrnak is in the top 5 in scoring again this year. They have kind of lost, especially I'm thinking about Prashuris Bergeron retiring after last season. They lost some key guys that honestly, I don't know if Boston's going to be able to go on another Stanley Cup run. I mean, they've played really good this year, but I don't know. I mean, this year's playoffs are wide open, and I know every year's playoffs are wide open, but you could really truly make a case for like nearly every single team in the playoffs to go on a Stanley Cup run. Can Boston do it? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously they can, but will they? That remains to be seen. As far as Toronto goes, they still have their core guys: Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, Morgan Riley, obviously. Those guys have all played really good throughout the year. They've actually gotten a surprising amount of depth now because, thinking about how much money those four guys, well, five, counting Riley, how much money those guys make. And Matthews is about to get another $3 million. He's about to become the highest paid player in the league next year. Considering how much money is being spent on those guys, they've actually built a really good group of supporting players. They brought in Bertuzzi over the offseason. Max Domi also brought in. Ryan Reeves brought in to be sort of a fourth-line grinder, typical fourth-line role. They have actually a surprisingly a good amount of youth with Jared McCann and Matthew Nyes. Those guys have both played pretty good when they've been healthy. Their defense, they went all in with trying to overhaul the defense at the trade deadline, bringing in guys like Edmondson. I'm trying to remember who else they brought in. I was about to say Noel Charlie, but that was last year. They brought in some other names on defense to try and shore up their defensive depth, and in goal they have probably Samsonov. I would imagine it's going to be the starter, but Joseph Wall is also there. They have Martin Jones as the third option. If they need Martin Jones, but I would imagine if it's getting to where they have to rely on Martin Jones to win them a playoff series, they're probably not going to win. Just saying, nothing against Martin Jones, but I would imagine they probably go with Samsonov to start, and then Wall is going to be there if they need it. As far as who I think is going to win, you know what? For the first time since 1959, Toronto takes out Boston. I know that Toronto fans are really terrified to see the Bruins again in the playoffs, but a good point. Steve Dangle, again, I told you I was listening to his stuff over the past couple months. One of the things he said in their podcast was that Toronto has not played the Bruins since 2019, and most of those guys, Marner, Matthews, and Nylander, were all like early 20s, like they were only in their third, fourth years in the league, and now those guys are actually pretty much in their prime. They've grown, they've matured and stuff. So I definitely think that's going to be one of the most fun series in the entire playoffs. Boston Toronto Part 4 or whatever. It's going to be fun to watch. That's what I'm getting at. Now we move on. New York Rangers, Washington Capitals. Rangers obviously won the President's Trophy. Panarin played lights out, another top 5 finish in points scored. Mika Zibanejad playing really well. Kreider is still there playing well. Lafreniere has started to show his value as a first-round overall pick. On defense, Keandre Miller's still playing really good. And then in goal, Jonathan Quick. Man, Jonathan Quick has had a renaissance. I thought he was done after last year. I thought he was going to retire. But now he made it. He went from Vegas to New York, played a backup role, but played really, really, really well in the backup role when Shesterkin was having some issues throughout the year. And then when Shesterkin was back to being his usual self, he took over the net, and he's run with it. So Rangers won the President's Trophy for a reason. Hurricanes almost caught him. I hoped that they would, and yet at the same time kind of wanted them not to because of the President's Trophy curse. But that's beside the point. So Rangers obviously deserving of the President's Trophy. They've had a really good year. And then Washington was kind of that team in the East that's like, okay, well, one of these 4 teams between the Capitals, the Penguins, the Red Wings, and the Flyers, one of these teams has to make it. Ended up being Washington. But Ovi has had a phenomenal second half of the year. I think he had only scored 8 goals through his first 41 games, and then he scored 25 in the last 41 games. Like, just a ridiculous scoring pace. So Ovi's had a really good second half. Obviously, Dylan Strome led the team in points. I wouldn't have put money on that at the beginning of the year, but good for him. Tom Wilson's usual Tom Wilson. John Carlson's still holding the fort on defense, and then they'll probably. I'm trying to think. What was their goalie's name? I'm sorry, Capitals fans. I'm trying to remember. Charlie Lindgren. They'll probably go with Lindgren because Lindgren has actually had a really underratedly good year in net for Washington. He's actually played pretty well. I am going to take the Rangers to win the series. Nothing against Ovi, nothing against the Caps. By the way, thank you from a Canes fan for Kuznetsov. We love him here. He's being well taken care of. But yeah, it's again, it's the President's Trophy winner for a reason. Washington kind of is going into the playoffs kind of hot, but also not really. I mean, every single one of those teams, like I said, the Capitals, the Flyers, the Penguins, and the Red Wings were all stumbling over each other to kind of find out who was going to be the last team to get that second wild card spot. So that's kind of where I think that series is going to go. Washington could push the Rangers more than people are giving them credit for, especially if Ovi is being Ovi and Lindgren is stepping up the way I think he can. That series will be closer than people expect, but I am going to give the edge to the Rangers. And then final series of the first round, my favorite team, the Hurricanes, playing against the Islanders, rematch of last year's first round. The Hurricanes won that series in 6. I'll start with the Islanders. They obviously fired their coach in the middle of the year. Patrick Waugh took over. The New York Islanders are actually a really scary team to face in the playoffs because of their suffocating defense, the way they play. They limit chances, much like the Hurricanes. Their goaltending, Sorokin's had a little bit of a down year, but he's still played decently well, and Varlamov has really stepped up when Sorokin has kind of struggled. And then they've had, they still have Bo Horvat, who they acquired last year. He didn't have a great playoffs last year, but he's now had a full season in the system. Still have guys like Anders Lee. Still have Matt Barzal, obviously, as their big scoring threat. They've been really good on defense. Adam Pelech has had a really good year. I'm trying to remember. I think it was Dobson, right? That had 10 goals, 60 assists for 70 points from the defense. Like, that's kind of nuts. That's crazy production. So Islanders are not a team to overlook by any means. And then talking about the Hurricanes, man, I'm really, really excited about this year. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really excited to see what the Hurricanes are gonna do. Last year they went into the playoffs. Rod Brind'Amour's style of coaching, limit chances, be opportunistic on offense, but they went into their playoffs without Max Pacioretty and without Andrei Svechnikov, who were two of their big scoring threats. So they're going into the playoffs much more healthy this year. I think their only real key injury right now is Jesper Fast, who is not dealing with a concussion, but is dealing with some sort of upper body injury that he took against the Blue Jackets in the last game. But that's their only real notable injury right now. The defense 1 through 6 has been phenomenal. I was really skeptical about Orlov's contract, getting paid $7.5 million to be on the third line. He's fit in phenomenally. Aho nearly had a 90-point season. I was hoping he would hit that 90-point mark, but he was 1 point short. He had a really good year. Seth Jarvis has had a breakout year, had 30-plus goals, had 60-something points. He was really good. And part of that is because of the addition of Jake Gensel, who I actually heard earlier today set an NHL record for the most points by a trade deadline acquisition and their remaining whatever amount of games in the regular season. He set the new record for trade deadline acquisition with 25 points, 8 goals, 17 assists, 25 points. Just played phenomenal on that first line. He literally looks like he's been with the Hurricanes from the get-go since he was drafted. I mean, that's how well he looks like he fits into the system. That's how natural his chemistry with Aho and Jarvis have felt. And then Kuznetsov is also, he started off hot when he joined the Hurricanes. He's kind of slowed down a little bit on offense, at least. He started off really good, ended up with 7 points in the 20 games that he played. So, if he can even be a half point per game, the key thing is not going to be how many points. It's when Gensel and Kuznetsov, both of them being solid and what's the word I'm thinking of? Proven. They've both been proven playoff performers. So if both of them come in, they don't even have to be leading the team in points or anything. As long as they get goals whenever the team needs them. Those deadline acquisitions will both look really good on paper. So I'm rambling too much. The Hurricanes are my favorite team, so I have way more to say about them than like every other team, so I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and just give my prediction and stop rambling. I'm going to say the Hurricanes win again. Oh, yeah, we'll go through and give the game predictions. Florida versus Tampa, I'll say that series goes 6. Boston, Toronto has to go 7. Rangers, Capitals, it feels like there's always one sweep. It feels like there's always one sweep every year. And this one is probably the most likely to be a sweep. Was there a sweep last year? Let me think. Devils? No, I don't think the Devils swept the Rangers. I think the Devils beat the Rangers in 5 last year. Was there a sweep? No, Winnipeg. Vegas beat Winnipeg in 5. Carolina beat the Islanders in 6. Obviously, Florida beat Boston in 7. That was one of the craziest upsets in not only NHL history but sports history. I don't think there was a sweep last year, at least not in the first round. So I don't think there was a sweep in the first round last year. I'll go with the Rangers. I'll give them 5. Like I said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Capitals pushed that series further than 5, but I don't trust the Capitals really that much. Carolina, I'll say that they win the series in 6 again. I think that New York is going to give them a bit of a challenge, but I do think Carolina will win that series in 6. I got to speed it up a little bit. I'm sorry, guys. All right, Dallas to Colorado. What the heck? I've already kind of gone through and given my thoughts on all the teams, so I think I'm just going to go through and give my predictions for the rest without talking about each individual team. Colorado and Dallas is a tough one. I think Dallas could find a way to shut down Colorado's offense, at least stifle them enough for Dallas's offense to get into Georgiev's head. I think Dallas will win that series. Edmonton and Nashville. Unfortunately for Nashville, I think Edmonton ends up taking it. I just think Edmonton, they just have too much firepower on offense. Florida and Toronto, rematch of last year's second round. Florida beat Toronto in 5. Obviously, Florida fans were clowning Toronto for saying we want Florida. It's up to you to decide if that's legit or not. But Florida and Toronto, see, that's the thing is Toronto made it out of the first round last year, and I would have said that if Toronto made it out of the first round, whenever they did make it out of the first round and broke that 19-year playoff drought, I would have said that that Toronto would go on a run at least to the conference final, but they obviously didn't. I think Florida probably beats them again. And then Rangers and Hurricanes, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. We're getting a rematch we're getting a rematch this year of last year's Eastern Conference Final. Dallas and Edmonton. Oh. Like, Dallas is probably the easy pick, but I feel like it's boring. I feel like it's boring to pick the 1 seed from the conference. No, what am I saying? It's the team that I think is going to win. I think Dallas would take out Edmonton. I do. Florida and Carolina, again, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid. I think the Hurricanes, especially, again, having the additions of Gensel and Kuznetsov, I think they have those guys that can score when they're needed in the playoffs. I think that they find a way to take out the Panthers. That's the thing they didn't have last year was scoring. Their goaltending and defense was phenomenal. I mean 3 of the 4 games went to overtime, or at least 2 of the 4 games. Obviously, the first game went to quadruple overtime. The second game went to overtime. Every single one of the games was a 1-goal game, and they were all low scoring. Like, the defense and goaltending was not the issue last year. It's just the offense dried up. But I think that Carolina overcomes it this year. Dallas and Carolina. Logically, I think Dallas. Logically, I think Dallas will win. As much as I hate to say it, total number of goals scored in the Stanley Cup final. Total number of goals. So I'm gonna say that series goes 7, especially because Dallas would have home ice advantage. I think that series will go 7. Both teams play really good defensively. I'll say 41. Not 400. No, not 414. Not 414 goals. That would be like. That would be like what? Almost 60 goals a game. Yeah, no, that's not happening. All right. So my logic pick is Dallas beats Carolina in 7. I'm gonna rename it to Rockman's Brain Picks. Rockman's Brain Picks. Okay, well, it didn't get the S, but that's fine. Rockman's Brain Pick. And then, real quickly, I'm going to go through and tell you who I'm rooting for. This is just my heart pick. Rockman's Heart Picks. I cannot type. Okay, Rockman's Heart Picks. All right. Okay, we'll do it. We'll do same order. All right, Dallas and Vegas. Honestly, I don't have anything against Dallas, but Vegas, low-key, I know that their whole cap shenanigans thing, everyone hates them for it. Maybe it's just because I have an affinity for Vegas as a city. Having been there a couple times, I absolutely love the city. Maybe it's just something to do with that. But I'd actually be rooting for Vegas, surprisingly. Winnipeg and Colorado. All right, a little bit of Rocketman lore here. I'm picking Colorado, not because I hate Winnipeg. Again, with the Western Conference, I don't have a reason to really hate any team. But I'm picking Colorado for the sole reason of Alexander Georgiev being Bulgarian, being the only player in the NHL that was born in Bulgaria, even though he, all of his hockey DB and all of his stuff says that he's Russian. He was born in Bulgaria. I'm half Bulgarian, so I'm rooting hard for Georgiev. So that's literally the only reason why, is because I'm half Bulgarian and the goalie for Avalanches was born in Bulgaria. Vancouver and Nashville, my good friend John, who's in chat, obviously he's a Predators fan, so I'm rooting for Preds. Edmonton and LA, I guess I'd say LA just because Edmonton's beat them twice in a row. I guess I'd say LA, but I don't have any reason to hate either of those teams either. Vegas will win in 7. Colorado. Oh, jeez. That scared the life out of me. That actually jump scared me. And that sounded horrible. I'm sorry for the awful quality. That actually scared the life out of me. That scared me so badly. I don't have the heart rate monitor on, but I guarantee my heart rate jumped up at least 15 or 20 beats per minute from that. Oh my gosh. Okay. Nashville will win. Like I said, it will be in 7. LA, I would say they would have to win it in 7. They would have to win it in 7. Florida and Tampa, so I'm not really a big fan of either of these teams. I guess I'll go with Florida because Tampa Bay's won the first 2 in the Battle of Florida. Boston, Toronto, definitely rooting for Toronto. Can't stand Boston, plus Toronto kind of deserves a bone. Rangers and Capitals. Rangers fans are really cocky. I kind of can't stand Rangers fans. Capitals fans, obviously, there's a history of 2019 first round, the hatred between the Capitals and Hurricanes. I guess I'll go with Capitals because that's the one of the games I went to live last year, the Stadium Series. The Hurricanes played the Capitals. I know that's a stupid reason, but I can't stand the Rangers fans for the most part, so... And then that's just another reason. And then obviously, spoiler alert, Florida, I think, what did I say? I think I said 6. That Florida would win that series. Toronto would win in 7. Washington would have to take it to 7 if they're going to beat the Rangers. They would have to get in the Rangers' heads and take that series to 7. Carolina, like I said, will win in 6. All right. Moving on, Vegas and Colorado. I really like Vegas, but again, that Bulgarian blood in me is telling me to go for the Avalanche. It's such a dumb reason. I'm sorry. It's such a dumb reason to root for someone, but that's literally the only reason. And then obviously, like I said, Nashville, I'm rooting for them. Florida and Toronto, I'm definitely going Toronto. Washington, Carolina, obviously. Nashville and Colorado. I'll go Nashville. I'll go Nashville so that way me and my buddy John could watch a full series of Nashville versus Carolina. But John, I can't. In gun conscious, I cannot root against my team. Total number of goals scored in that series, I would say that series would probably be even lower scoring than the Dallas series. So I'll say like 38, not 60. Wow, 2 times in a row I've went to go type in my final goal prediction, and I've completely butchered it. Going with 38, though. So that's my heart picks again. Carolina versus Nashville. That's who I want to win. We'll see which bracket does better. I'm actually curious to see, because I think this is the first time I've done playoff predictions for the last 4 seasons now. And this is, I think, the first time that I've done 2 separate brackets. One with predicting who I think is going to win, and then doing one who I want to win. So we'll see which one does better. But appreciate you guys watching. If you're still sticking around to the end of the video, I greatly appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff if you want to, but no pressure. And again, follow me over on Twitch, twitch.tv/rcktman0127. I did this whole recording live on stream with chat, so if you guys want to check in and see what's going on over on Twitch, just watch me be terrible at video games, feel free to follow me over there. Appreciate you guys watching. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully the playoffs will be as entertaining as they look to be on paper, but we'll see what happens. See you guys.